Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I want to do a little fun discussion about the rise in interest, or, I don't want to say the sudden rise, because that wouldn't make sense, because it's been slowly kind of going up, as to oppose of just all of a sudden. And that's the rise in interest in retro gaming. And this thought came to my head actually yesterday. I was at the mall, I was at the Lego store, and I was staring at the big displays that they had, and a bunch of them were like retro gaming. Well, there was quite a few of them that were retro gaming related. The first noting that the Atari 2600 Lego set, which came out a little while back, really impressive looking Lego set. It's modeled after the Atari 2600 VCS 4-switch, and it comes with some cartridges that look like cartridges, and you can turn them into this display. Really cool looking set. And then beside that was a Pac-Man arcade, like those countertop stand-up ones that you can get. It looked cool. It's not functional, obviously. It looks like a functional thing, but it doesn't. It's more for eye candy, and I would say that most of these things are eye candy if you think about it. You're buying an Atari that's made out of Lego. It would be quite impressive if they could build something like that that would actually function as an Atari. Some people can get crafty and do that. They can actually, rip apart an old Atari and build a Lego case around it. But I don't think Lego would ever go to that extent. But, these things are what they are. They're Lego sets. You build them and you put them on display, or you look at them. And then also, to go a little bit more up the timeline, they had like Sonic the Hedgehog sets, and a lot of Super Mario Brothers. And obviously both of those got a boost in the movies that came out. So we had the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which came out a few years back. I think there's going to be a third one. Obviously the way they ended the second one, yeah, there's going to be most likely a third one. And the more recent Super Mario Brothers movie, which has also brought more attention back to the retro gaming world. In that movie, there was a lot of references to the old Nintendo, it kind of went through the timeline of Mario. But it was really, an interesting movie as far as a retro perspective for a young audience as well, to kind of get a glimpse of the old ways of video gaming. And, so obviously things like that coming out in, Super Mario Brothers was one of the biggest selling movies up until about Barbie, which is also kind of a retro thing. It goes back in time to the original Barbie doll toys and stuff. But I'm just thinking about the fact that these movies, help propel. And then if we look into the actual video gaming systems that are coming out, we've had the flashback now for several years. It's nothing new. It's a great little system for the, there was a Sega one, there was a Sega Genesis one, but there was the Atari one, which they've made continuously almost for like years. There's, I think they're up to 11 now or something like that. And, of course, there's the Flashback Portable, which I always have my box here. The Flashback Portables came out. There was some interest in that, which, kind of helped evolve the whole, let's get back into retro gaming. And then, of course, more recently in the news, on the Atari forums, and is that there's the Atari 2600 Plus that's coming out. And, a bunch of YouTubers have already talked about that. I did my own video on it. And, just the idea that something is coming out that can play physical cartridges. It's what we always wanted, right? We love those flashbacks. Don't get me wrong, we love the flashback. Some people prefer the flashback. They don't want to deal with cartridges and physical media. They just want something they can just plug into their HDMI big screen TV and have at it. And, there's been people who talk about the, I think it was the Flashback 9, I believe, was the one who had the SD card slot, which was genius, where you could load ROMs onto the thing. Actually, this thing has the SD card as well. I think because that one was modeled after the Sega plug and play, which they put the SD card into. So it had the slot there, so why not make it compatible, I guess. I'm sure there's other reasons for it. But the new Atari 2600 Plus, which is playing these guys, the 7800 cartridges, um, which was a genius move because we were aware of the Retron 77 that came out a while before, which was, you know, kind of a hit and miss device. There was people who loved it. There was people that hated it. It had the ability to load the ROMs on. The 2600 Plus doesn't have that ability, as far as we know. Anyways, as far as I know, I don't know if there's going to be a way to do it, but you know, just the idea of playing physical cartridges is what kind of selling me on it, and bringing this whole retro gaming thing forward. And it was something that I remember having this discussion a few times, and I guess a few different videos, about will cartridge games, will the old systems ever come back? And, you know, I think back to when, you know, Nintendo, Super Nintendo were on the shelves at Toys R Us, when you could still buy them. And when Atari came along and said, hey, remember us? And they created the Atari 2600 Junior, which is a smaller, more sleek version of the Atari. I used to have one on my shelf here, but I think I sold that one. But anyways, yeah, that came out and they started selling the cartridges again, the original, well, the old, I wouldn't say old because they were kind of making new ones at the same time, but they were selling Atari 2600 cartridges to work on these systems at the same time that Nintendo was out, being that Nintendo would have been the modern system of the day, versus something like Atari, which was, you know, about a decade in the past. So it was interesting that they would make that jump. And now it feels like we're at it again. Now Atari is doing the same thing. They're saying, hey, I know you have your Switch. I know you have your Xbox, your PS5 or whatever. We know that there's Steam and you know, PCs and all that stuff. But let's give some love back to the original Atari 2600. And that's what they did. They now people are speculating why put this device out. I've heard some videos going on about it being an emulation device versus actually hardware that can read the cartridge, not just dump the ROM. You know, there's a lot of speculation as to what's going on. Some people are like, oh, it's a scam, or, you know, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of up and down speculation. Personally, I think it's because they got into the game of selling cartridges again. They've been selling Atari 2600 cartridges, brand new, that they're manufacturing. They're not just repurposing old ones. They're manufacturing, and they put some of the classics out there. Now, again, that was striking controversy because some people were saying, well, these are just collectibles that they're just selling off to the retro gamers just to make a profit. Maybe it is. Maybe it's for nostalgia. But I look at it as they're trying to get the brand going again. They're trying to get what they're known for was their cartridges, their systems, and all this other stuff. And it seems to be a popular thing now. It's just coming back. And so, since they started selling cartridges, why not sell a machine that can now read those cartridges? I mean, we were questioning that when they first started to sell those collector's edition things as to who these were for. Because if someone didn't have an original Atari, if you don't have this guy that still works in your basement somewhere, or if you're not a diehard fan that still has, you know, buys these things, fixes them up, and has a CRT TV or you know, gets it to work on their HDMI TV, what were these cartridges for? And they've been talking about wanting to put out more homebrews. Well, not homebrews, but actual original games. I don't want to call them homebrews because they're original games that they want to program and put under the Atari name. And so it does make sense that they would create a device that could read these cartridges. Now, on the flip side, the technology they used, maybe for saving money purposes, maybe to get it out faster, it does kind of raise questions. You know, I'm assuming when things are done certain ways, it's because of cost. I find it hard to believe that they could not replicate the original Atari 2600 or 7800 and, package it up and sell it. And of course, the other question is, would it be possible for these things to actually end up in stores one day? I used to love seeing all the Atari cartridges on the shelves, going even in Toys R Us and Kmart's and all the other stores that I used to go into. Just seeing a line of video games across the store. You don't have that really anymore. I mean, it's there, but it's not there. I mean, the Nintendo Switch, you could see those games in the showcases still. But the push to put games online has been going on for years now. And I think it's ramping up with the talk of systems coming out that don't even have ports to plug a cartridge or a disc into it. That's the future of modern gaming is the digital downloads and all that other stuff, and games being on a server. And that's a whole different conversation ball of wax, because I've heard other people tell me that it's a tragedy because a lot of these games are going to be lost one day when the server shuts down. It's a big mess. So maybe this is where we want to go back to. We're going to go back to the plastic, to the hardware. But it's expensive. I get it. It was expensive then. It's expensive now. Is this rise going to be getting more people into this stuff? Or is it just the same old people that have been into it since the 80s, 90s, and we're just reliving our nostalgia, and it'll just strictly live online to a small group of people? We're just gonna have to wait and find out. It's an interesting development. The more recent news about Atari acquiring the Atari Age website, the forums, and with talks with Albert saying that they're going to create more products and more stuff. It sounds like there's future plans here for Atari to develop more and more of the retro stuff, retro games. We even just recently had the Atari 50th anniversary put out that you can play on your Switch. There's apparently a 1-Up arcade that was developed. We are going in this direction of people want this stuff, and I hope we're going to get more, and it's going to continue to flourish. Anyways, let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. If you've heard anything, or if you know of anything that's coming up that you can contribute to this conversation, I'd love to hear it. Put it down in the comments below. And I hope you subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.